Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything, you guys. Watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The grand ballroom of the Fairmont Copley Plaza in Boston shimmered like a jewel box, its towering chandeliers casting golden light across the polished marble floors. Outside, the crisp autumn air swirled around Copley Square, where streetlights flickered against the dusk. But inside, the air buzzed with the clink of champagne flutes and the low hum of calculated chatter. This was no ordinary night. It was the annual charity gala, a playground for Boston's elite where tycoons, politicians, and socialites gathered to flaunt their wealth under the guise of generosity. The room smelled of expensive perfume and ambition, and every glance held a hint of judgment. Zara Brooks stood frozen on the stage, her heart pounding like a drum. She hadn't expected this. Nobody had warned her. The MC, a slick man in a tuxedo with a grin too wide, had just announced a special auction item, a date with the mysterious Zara Brooks. The spotlight burned into her hot and unrelenting, illuminating her deep brown skin and the simple lavender silk dress she'd sewn herself, its clean lines inspired by the vibrant kente cloth her mother had loved. Her curly hair, loosely tied back, framed her face, and her dark brown eyes, usually warm and steady, now flickered with panic. Around her wrist, a silver bracelet, her only keepsake from her adoptive mother. Naomi Brooks felt like an anchor grounding her as the room erupted in whispers. Look at her. Who even is she? A woman in a glittering sequined gown, hissed her voice carrying over the crowd. Another, clutching a martini, giggled sharply. Probably a nobody who wandered in. That dress looks like a craft project. The laughter that followed sliced through Zara like a winter wind, cold and unforgiving. She gripped the bracelet, her knuckles tightening, and forced herself to breathe. She was no stranger to cruelty. Growing up in an orphanage in Roxbury, she'd heard worse about her hand-me-down clothes and braided hair. But tonight, in this glittering sea of privilege, the scorn stung deeper, threatening to drown her. Noah Caldwell leaned against a marble pillar at the back of the ballroom, a glass of bourbon in his hand, his sharp green eyes scanning the crowd with detached indifference. At 34, he was the CEO of Caldwell Innovations, a tech empire that had made him a billionaire by 30, with neatly combed chestnut hair, a chiseled jaw, and a tailored black suit that hugged his broad shoulders. He was the kind of man who commanded attention without trying. But Noah hated these events. The fake smiles, the empty promises of charity, the endless posturing. He only attended to maintain his company's image, though a small part of him still hoped to find something real in this world of pretense. His gaze landed on Zara the moment she stepped onto the stage, not because of her dress, though its simplicity stood out against the gaudy excess around her, but because of her eyes. They held a fire, a quiet strength mixed with vulnerability that he hadn't seen in years. When the MC announced the auction and the crowd's mockery began, Noah's grip on his glass tightened. He overheard Evelyn Harper, a socialite with a sharp tongue and a diamond necklace that screamed old money sneer to her friend. She's probably a server who got lost. Look at that homemade dress. The laughter that followed made Noah's jaw clench. He wasn't one to intervene. Emotions were a liability in his world, but something about Zara's stillness, the way she held herself, despite the cruelty, stirred a rare discomfort in him. On stage, the bidding started, and it was as humiliating as Zara feared. A middle-aged man in a pinstripe suit raised his hand, smirking. $10,000. The crowd chuckled, treating it like a joke. Another, younger and clearly amused, called out $20,000. Zara's cheeks burned, but she refused to let tears fall. She wasn't an object to be bartered yet. Every bid felt like a blade twisting into her pride. Julian Pierce, a slick entrepreneur with a predatory grin, stepped forward, his voice dripping with arrogance. $50,000. Let's see if she's worth it. His friends roared with laughter, and Zara's vision blurred, not from sadness, but from a deep, aching sense of being out of place. She'd come to this gala to ensure the charity funds she quietly supported reached the kids at Hope Haven, not to be paraded like a prize. Noah had seen enough. Setting his bourbon down with a quiet clink, he straightened his green eyes, darkening with resolve. The crowd parted instinctively as he strode toward the stage, his presence like a storm rolling in. No one dared block Noah Caldwell, a man whose mere glance could silence a boardroom. The MC faltered, sensing the shift in the room. "Any higher bids?" he asked, his voice wavering. Noah's voice cut through the air, low and commanding. $1 million. A gasp rippled through the ballroom, glasses trembling in hands, whispers dying into stunned silence. Julian's smirk vanished, replaced by a scowl. Evelyn's martini nearly slipped from her fingers. The MC stammered, "Oh, 1 million from Mr. Noah Caldwell. Any higher bids?" No one spoke. No one would challenge the most powerful man in the room. Noah climbed the stage, his polished shoes clicking against the wood, and turned to face the crowd. His voice was calm but razor-sharp. "She's not an item to be sold." The words landed like a gavel, and the room seemed to shrink under his gaze. Then he turned to Zara, his expression softening, his green eyes warm in a way that made her breath catch. "I didn't bid to buy you," he said, his voice low, meant only for her. "I bid so. No one else could hurt you." Zara stared at him, her wide eyes shimmering with a mix of shock and gratitude. Her heart hammered not from the spotlight, but from the sincerity in his gaze. He was tall, his presence overwhelming yet gentle, and his face sharp, cheekbones. A faint stubble made her pulse skip. I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You don't have to say anything," Noah replied, offering his hand. "Would you like to get out of here?" She hesitated, then nodded, her small hand slipping into his. His touch was warm, steady, like a lifeline in a storm. As he led her off the stage, the crowd erupted in a mix of applause and murmurs, cameras flashing like fireworks. Evelyn whispered furiously to Julian, "How does she get Noah Caldwell's attention? She's nobody." But Zara barely heard them. All she felt was the warmth of Noah's hand and a fleeting sense of safety she hadn't known she craved. They slipped into a quiet hallway off the ballroom where the golden light from sconces cast soft shadows on the walls. The distant hum of the gala faded, replaced by the faint sound of traffic from Copley Square. Noah released her hand, stepping back to give her space, his green eyes searching her face. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low and genuine. Zara nodded, smoothing her dress, her cheeks still flushed. "I'm fine. I didn't expect that. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell." She paused, her eyes meeting his. "Why did you do it?" He smiled faintly, a rare crack in his guarded demeanor. "Call me Noah, and I did it because you didn't deserve to be treated like that. Nobody does, but especially not you." Her breath caught at the intensity in his voice. She wasn't used to kindness from strangers, especially not from men like him. Powerful, untouchable, the kind who moved through the world like they owned it. Yet here he was standing close enough for her to catch the scent of his cologne, a warm mix of cedarwood and leather that made her head spin. Sensual scene. Noah stepped closer, his hand brushing her shoulder as he adjusted a stray curl that had fallen from her updo. The touch was fleeting but electric, sending a shiver down her spine. The golden light from the sconces danced across her skin, highlighting the curve of her collarbone, and she felt his gaze linger, not with judgment, but with something deeper, something that made her pulse race. "You're not like anyone in that room," he said, his voice a low rumble like the distant roll of thunder over Boston Harbor. His fingers hovered near her wrist, grazing the silver bracelet, and the warmth of his touch seeped through her slow and intoxicating, like honey spreading through tea. The air between them thickened, charged with unspoken possibilities, and Zara's breath hitched as his green eyes locked onto hers, searching, waiting, the scent of his cologne wrapped around her, grounding yet dizzying. And for a moment, the world narrowed to just them, the soft glow, the faint hum of the city, the heat of his nearness. Then, a waiter's tray clattered nearby, snapping them back to reality, and Zara stepped back, her cheeks burning. "I should go," she said, her voice shaky but firm. "Thank you, Noah. Really." He nodded, his expression unreadable, but his eyes still warm. "I hope we meet again, Zara." She turned, her lavender dress swaying as she walked away. Her heart, a storm of emotions, gratitude, confusion, and something new, something thrilling she couldn't name. Noah watched her go, his jaw tight, already determined to find her again. Back in her small Roxbury apartment, Zara sat on her couch, the silver bracelet glinting under the lamplight. Her phone buzzed with notifications, tabloid headlines screaming, "Mystery Black Woman, Snags Billionaire, Noah Caldwell," and cruel comments about her cheap dress and gold-digging ways. She scrolled through them, her dark eyes dimming with sadness, but she didn't cry. She'd faced worse in the orphanage, in a world that judged her skin before her heart. Still, the words stung, and she wondered if she'd ever belong in Noah's world, or if she even wanted to. Meanwhile, in his penthouse overlooking the Charles River, Noah sat at his desk, a glass of bourbon untouched. His laptop glowed with a single search: Zara Brooks, Hope Haven. He didn't know why she'd gotten under his skin, but he couldn't shake the image of her eyes, her strength, her quiet dignity. His phone lit up with a text from his mother, Victoria Caldwell. "And this nonsense with that girl. You're embarrassing the family." Noah's jaw tightened and he set the phone down, his mind already made up. He wasn't letting Zara go. Not yet. As the Boston skyline glittered outside, a question hung in the air. Could two people from such different worlds find a way to each other? Or would the weight of judgment and ambition tear them apart before they even began? Did the sparks between Zara and Noah light up your heart? Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment to share your thoughts. Their journey's just getting started, and you won't want to miss what's next. The morning sun spilled over Roxbury, painting the brick row houses in shades of gold and amber. In the heart of the neighborhood, where the rhythm of jazz drifted from open windows and the scent of soul food lingered in the air, Hope Haven stood as a beacon of warmth. The small orphanage, with its faded yellow walls and a tiny garden bursting with vegetables, was more than a building to Zara Brooks. It was home, the place where her heart felt fullest. Here, among the laughter of children and the simple joy of giving, she could forget the glittering cruelty of the Fairmont Copley Plaza and the tabloid headlines that had haunted her for days. Zara knelt in the garden, her hands buried in cool, damp soil as she helped a group of kids plant carrots. She wore a faded blue t-shirt and jeans, her curly hair tied up in a loose bun, a few strands dancing in the breeze. Her deep brown skin glowed under the sunlight, and her dark eyes sparkled with a quiet joy as she ruffled the hair of Malik Young, a 10-year-old with a quick grin and a love for poetry. "Miss Zara, you think these carrots gonna grow as big as my head?" Malik asked, holding up a seed like it was a treasure. She laughed, her voice warm like a summer afternoon. "If you keep talking to 'em like you do, Malik, they might grow bigger." She handed him a watering can, her silver bracelet, Naomi Brooks' keepsake, glinting on her wrist. The kids around her giggled, their voices blending with the distant hum of Roxbury's streets. where a street vendor's call and the faint strum of a guitar created a living symphony. Zara's heart felt light here, far from the judgmental stares of Boston's elite. But as she recited a line from Audre Lorde's poetry to the kids, "I am deliberate and afraid of nothing," a shadow fell across the garden. Noah Caldwell stood at the garden gate, his tailored navy blazer and crisp white shirt stark against the colorful chaos of Hope Haven. His green eyes, sharp yet curious, locked onto Zara, and a faint smile tugged at his lips. He hadn't planned on coming here. Not really. After the gala, he'd spent days wrestling with the image of her on that stage. Her strength under fire and the way her hand had felt in his. A quick search had led him to Hope Haven, and now, seeing her kneel in the dirt, her laughter mingling with the kids, he felt something shift inside him like a lock clicking open. Malik spotted him first, his eyes widening. "Miss Zara, there's a fancy guy here." The other kids turned giggling, and Zara looked up, her breath catching. She scrambled to her feet, brushing soil from her jeans, her cheeks flushing with a mix of surprise and embarrassment. "Noah," she said, her voice soft, but edged with caution. "What are you doing here?" He stepped through the gate, his polished shoes crunching on the gravel path. "I wanted to see you," he said simply, his voice low and sincere. "I heard you work here, and I had to know more about the woman who stood so strong on that stage." His eyes held hers, steady and warm, and Zara felt a flutter in her chest, unfamiliar and unsettling. Before she could respond, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Zara, who's this Lila Hayes?" Zara's best friend strode into the garden, her locks swinging as she crossed her arms. A filmmaker with a knack for sniffing out trouble, Lila was all fire and wit, her brown eyes narrowing at Noah. "You the guy from the gala, the one splashing Zara's name all over the tabloids?" Noah raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "Noah Caldwell. And I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to talk," Lila snorted, glancing at Zara. "Talk, huh, Zara? You sure about this? Billionaires don't just talk. They got agendas." Zara sighed, her hands on her hips. "Lila, chill. He's not the enemy." But doubt flickered in her eyes. The tabloids had been merciless, calling her a gold digger, and worse, with comments that cut deep into her identity as a black woman. And then there was the rumor she'd overheard that Caldwell Innovations had once pulled funding from a Roxbury youth program. Was Noah really here for her? Or was this some PR stunt to clean up his image? "Let's give him a chance," Zara said finally, her voice steady. She turned to Noah. "You want to help grab a shovel? We're planting carrots." To her surprise, Noah didn't hesitate. He shed his blazer, rolled up his sleeves, and knelt beside Malik, who immediately bombarded him with questions. "You rich mister. You got a jet?" Noah chuckled, his deep voice blending with the kids' laughter, and Zara watched her guard softening. There was something disarming about seeing a man like him, powerful, untouchable, digging in the dirt, his hands stained with soil, his green eyes bright with genuine interest. As the afternoon wore on, the kids ran off to play, and Zara and Noah found themselves alone by the garden's edge, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows across the grass. The air smelled of earth and blooming marigolds, and the faint notes of a jazz trumpet drifted from a nearby house, wrapping them in a soft, soulful melody. "Thanks for helping," Zara said, wiping her hands on her jeans. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," Noah replied, leaning against a wooden fence, his gaze steady. "This place, it's special. You're special, Zara. I saw it at the gala, and I see it even more now." Her cheeks warmed, but she looked away, her fingers tracing the silver bracelet. "You don't know me, Noah, and after those headlines, I'm not sure I want to be known." He stepped closer, his voice low. "I read them, and I'm sorry. I never meant to drag you into that mess, but I don't believe a word they say. I want to know the real you." not the tabloid version. Zara's heart skipped, but doubt lingered. Why, I'm nobody. Just a woman trying to do some good. You're not nobody, he said, his voice firm. You're the only person in that ballroom who wasn't playing a game, and that's worth more than any $1,000,000 bid. Sensual scene. The jazz trumpet swelled its notes, curling through the air like a warm breeze. Noah stepped closer, close enough for Zara to catch the scent of his cologne cedarwood and a hint of citrus, sharp and grounding. The golden light of dusk kissed her skin, highlighting the curve of her cheek, and Noah's fingers brushed her arm as he reached to steady a falling marigold petal. The touch was light but searing, sending a jolt through her, and her breath hitched as his green eyes locked onto hers, intense and searching. You're beautiful, he murmured, his voice a low rumble, like the hum of the city at night. His hand lingered near her wrist, grazing the silver bracelet, and the warmth of his skin against hers felt like a spark, slow and deliberate, igniting something deep within her. The music pulsed the trumpet's wail, matching the rhythm of her heartbeat, and for a moment they stood suspended, the world narrowing to the heat of his gaze, the soft rustle of leaves, the electric pull between them. Then Malik's shout, "Miss Zara, look at my carrot," shattered the moment, and Zara stepped back, her cheeks flaming, her pulse racing. I should check on the kids," she stammered, turning away. Noah nodded, his expression unreadable, but his eyes still burning. "I'll be around Zara, if you'll let me." As she walked back to the kids, Zara's mind churned. Noah's presence, his words, his touch. They stirred something she wasn't ready to face. She'd spent years building walls, protecting her heart from a world that judged her skin, her past, her everything. Could she trust him? Or was he just another man dazzled by a moment destined to disappear when the spotlight faded? Back at Hope Haven, Lila cornered her in the kitchen where the smell of cornbread filled the air. "Zara, you're glowing, and I don't like it," Lila said, her arms crossed. "That man's trouble. I dug around Caldwell Innovations, cut funding for a youth program in Roxbury 2 years ago. You sure he's not just here to look good after that gala fiasco?" Zara frowned, her stomach twisting. "I don't know, Lila. He seems different, but I'll be careful." "You better," Lila said, softening. "I just don't want you hurt, sis." That evening, Zara sat in her Roxbury apartment, the silver bracelet glinting under the lamplight. Her phone buzzed with new headlines. Zara Brooks, charity worker, or billionaire's plaything. The comments were vicious, attacking her dress, her skin, her very existence. She scrolled through them, her dark eyes hardening, but a small part of her wondered about Noah. Was Lila right? Was he playing a game? Meanwhile, across town, Noah stood in his penthouse, the Boston skyline glittering beyond his floor-to-ceiling windows. His laptop glowed with a file on Hope Haven, and a news alert popped up: Caldwell's mystery woman linked to charity scam. His jaw tightened. He knew the rumors were lies, but the source intrigued him. A leaked photo of Zara at Hope Haven traced back to his sister Sophie. Caldwell. Sophie, with her designer handbags and sharp tongue, had always resented Noah's defiance of their family's expectations. Had she done this to sabotage him? Or Zara? Noah picked up his phone, ignoring a text from his mother, Victoria. "This girl is a liability. End it." Instead, he typed a message to his assistant. "Find out everything about Zara Brooks and Hope Haven." He wasn't sure why Zara mattered so much, but he knew one thing: he wasn't walking away. In Roxbury, Zara stood by her window watching the streetlights flicker. She thought of Noah's touch, his eyes, the way he'd knelt in the dirt with Malik. Could she let him in? Or would the world's cruelty and her own fears keep them apart? As the jazz from a neighbor's apartment floated through the air, a question lingered. Was this the start of something real or a dream destined to crumble? Limert Park, pulsed with life under the Los Angeles sun, its streets alive with the rhythm of bongo drums and the chatter of vendors selling bright Ankara fabrics and beaded jewelry. The neighborhood, a vibrant hub of African-American culture, smelled of grilled plantains and coffee from local cafes and murals, celebrating black icons like Nina Simone adorned the walls. Zara Brooks felt at home here, far from the cold glitz of Boston's elite. She stood in the community center, organizing an arts workshop for kids from Hope Haven, her lavender t-shirt tucked into high-waisted jeans, her curly hair loose and framing her face like a crown. Her deep brown skin glowed under the sunlight streaming through the windows, and her dark eyes sparkled as she handed out paintbrushes to a group of giggling teens. "Miss Zara, you think I can paint like Basquiat?" asked Malik Young, the 10-year-old poet from Hope Haven, holding up a canvas streaked with bold reds and blues. Zara grinned, ruffling his hair. "Malik, you're already painting like you, and that's better than anybody." She quoted a line from Audre Lorde, her voice steady and warm. "Your silence will not protect you, so paint loud." "Okay." Malik nodded, his grin wide, and dove back into his work. But as Zara moved through the room, her silver bracelet, Naomi Brooks's keepsake, catching the light, a flicker of unease stirred in her chest. The tabloids hadn't let up since the Boston gala. Headlines like "Zara Brooks, billionaire's pawn" or "schemer," and comments attacking her as a gold digger followed her everywhere, their venom sharpened by racist undertones. She'd tried to ignore them, focusing on Hope Haven and the kids, but the weight of judgment was growing heavier. And then there was Noah Caldwell, the man who'd saved her from that humiliating auction, who'd knelt in the dirt with her at Hope Haven, whose touch still lingered in her dreams. She hadn't seen him in a week, but his last words, "I'll be around," Zara echoed in her mind, stirring a mix of hope and fear. The center's door swung open, and Noah stepped inside his presence like a quiet storm. He wore a tailored gray button-down and dark jeans, a casual shift from his usual suits. But his green eyes were as piercing as ever, locking onto Zara with an intensity that made her breath catch. The kids glanced up, whispering, and Malik piped up, "Yo, it's the fancy guy again." Zara's cheeks warmed, and she crossed her arms, trying to mask her surprise. "Noah," she said, her voice cautious but curious. "What brings you to L.A.?" He smiled faintly, stepping closer, the scent of his cedarwood cologne cutting through the paint and coffee in the air. "You," he said simply. "I heard about your workshop. Thought I'd see what you're building here." His gaze swept the room, taking in the kids' artwork, the vibrant chaos of Limert Park outside. "It's incredible, Zara. You're incredible." Her heart fluttered, but before she could respond, a smooth voice interrupted. "Well, isn't this a charming scene?" Julian Pierce, a rival entrepreneur with a shark's grin, sauntered in his tailored blazer, screaming money. His dark eyes glinted with calculation as he extended a hand to Zara. "Julian, Pierce Ventures. I'm a big fan of your community work." The pause was deliberate, laced with condescension, and Zara's jaw tightened. "Thanks," she said coolly, shaking his hand briefly. "But we're just getting started here." Julian's smile didn't waver, but his gaze flicked to Noah, a silent challenge. "I'm sure you are. I'd love to support your cause. Maybe a donation? Or..." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "A private chat to discuss your vision." Noah's eyes narrowed, his posture stiffening, but Zara held her ground, her voice firm. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Pierce, but we're good for now." She turned back to the kids, dismissing him, but the tension in the room was palpable. As the workshop wrapped up, Noah lingered, helping Malik clean paintbrushes, while Zara tidied the room. The kids left, and Limert Park settled into its evening rhythm. the bongo drums replaced by the soft wail of a saxophone from a nearby bar. Zara and Noah stepped outside the warm LA air, wrapping around them, and she felt a pull toward him, despite the doubts Lila had planted about his past. "Thanks for helping," she said, leaning against the center's mural-covered wall. "You're good with the kids. They're easy to like," Noah replied, his voice low, his green eyes steady. "Like you." He stepped closer and the air shifted, charged with something unspoken. "Zara, I meant what I said in Boston. I want to know you, the real you." Her breath hitched, but doubt crept in. "Noah, I don't know if I can trust this. Your world. It's not mine." "And I heard about Caldwell Innovations pulling funding from a Roxbury program. Was that you?" His jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "It was a board decision, not mine. I fought it, but I lost. I'm not perfect, Zara, but I'm trying to do better. Meeting you, it's making me want to be better." His honesty disarmed her, and for a moment she let herself believe him. But the world had other plans. That night, Zara attended a charity gala in Hollywood, a dazzling affair at the Dolby Theater where crystal chandeliers glittered, and the air smelled of champagne and ambition. She wore a red silk dress she'd sewn, its bold lines hugging her curves, inspired by the vibrant fabrics of Limert Park. Noah was there, his black suit sharp, and his presence magnetic. But so was Sophie Caldwell, his younger sister, whose designer gown and sharp blue eyes screamed privilege. Sophie had leaked the Hope Haven photo, and her smirk as Zara entered told her tonight wouldn't be easy. The gala was in full swing when Evelyn Harper, the Boston socialite, took the stage, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's honor our guests, including Zara Brooks." The spotlight swung to Zara, and Evelyn's smile turned venomous. "A woman who's captured so much attention, though. We're still wondering why. Charity worker or something else?" The crowd tittered, and Sophie whispered loudly to a friend, "She's just a nobody chasing Noah's money." Zara's cheeks burned, her hands clenching the hem of her dress. The room seemed to close in the laughter, echoing the cruelty of the Boston auction. She felt Noah's gaze on her, steady and fierce, but it was her own strength that carried her forward. She stepped to the stage, uninvited, and took the microphone, her voice clear and unwavering. "I'm here for the kids at Hope Haven," she said, her dark eyes sweeping the crowd. "Not for your approval, not for your money. I'm a black woman who's fought for every inch of my place in this world, and I'm not here to play your games. Judge me all you want. But I'm here for what matters. Love, community, and hope. Like Audre Lorde said, your silence will not protect you. So I'm speaking." The room fell silent, then erupted in applause, not from the elite, but from the staff, the volunteers, the few who saw her truth. Noah stood, his green eyes blazing with pride, and crossed the stage to her. "You're the most incredible woman I know," he said loud enough for all to hear, and took her hand. "And I'm with you, climax, too." The crowd gasped, cameras flashing, but Evelyn's voice cut through, sharp and bitter. "How touching. But can she be trusted, Noah? Or is she just another scandal waiting to happen?" Sophie smirked, and Zara felt the weight of their judgment. But Noah's grip on her hand anchored her. He faced the crowd, his voice like steel. "Zara's worth more than every dime in this room. Doubt her, doubt me. But you'll see the truth." They left the stage, the murmurs and flashes trailing them. But the damage was done. Backstage in a dimly lit corridor, Zara pulled away, her heart racing. "Noah, this is too much. They'll never stop. Then we'll fight them together," he said, his voice fierce. "I'm not letting you go." Zara, sensual scene. The corridor's soft lights cast shadows across Zara's red dress, the silk clinging to her curves like a second skin. Noah stepped closer, his cedarwood cologne mingling with the faint scent of jasmine from a nearby vase. The distant hum of the gala faded, replaced by the rhythmic wail of a saxophone drifting from Hollywood Boulevard. His hand brushed her arm, slow and deliberate, sending a shiver through her, and her breath caught as his fingers grazed the curve of her shoulder, warm and electrifying. "You were fearless up there," he murmured, his voice a low growl, like the rumble of a distant storm. His green eyes locked onto hers, burning with a hunger that made her pulse race, and he leaned in his lips, hovering inches from hers, the heat of his breath brushing her skin. The saxophone's wail swelled, matching the thud of her heartbeat, and Zara felt herself sway toward him, drawn by an invisible thread, her hands itching to touch him. But a security guard's radio crackled nearby, shattering the moment, and she stepped back, her cheeks flaming, her body humming with unspent desire. I need to go," she whispered, her voice shaky. Noah nodded, his eyes still intense. "This isn't over, Zara." She left her heart a storm, but the world was closing in. That night, her phone lit up with a new headline: Zara Brooks spotted with Julian Pierce in LA hotel. The photo was grainy staged. Julian had cornered her at the community center, his hand on her arm for a split second, but the lie spread like wildfire. Noah saw it too, his jaw tightening as doubt crept in. Had he misjudged her? Meanwhile, Julian met with Vance Corporation's CEO in a sleek Hollywood office, his grin predatory. "She's perfect," he said. "Noah's falling for her, and when she crashes, he'll take Caldwell Innovations down with her." The CEO nodded, unaware that Lila Hayes, filming a documentary in Limert Park, had overheard a piece of their plan. Back in her LA hotel room, Zara stared at the photo, her dark eyes hardening. She thought of Noah's pride, his hand in hers, but also Lila's warnings and the funding cut in Roxbury. Could she trust him? Or was their connection a spark destined to burn out as the city's lights glittered outside a new threat loomed? Vance Corporation's lies were tightening their grip, and Zara's heart hung in the balance. South Congress Avenue buzzed with the electric pulse of Austin at dusk, its neon signs glowing against the violet sky, the air thick with the scent of barbecue, and the twang of live guitars spilling from open-air bars. The street was a kaleidoscope of color food trucks painted with murals, boutiques showcasing cowboy boots, and crowds swaying to the rhythm of a blues band on a corner stage. Zara Brooks stood outside a converted warehouse hosting a charity gala, her heart racing as she smoothed the golden silk dress she'd sewn, its flowing lines catching the neon light like liquid fire. Her curly hair was adorned with a single magnolia flower, a nod to her mother, Naomi's love for southern blooms, and her deep brown skin shimmered under the streetlights, her dark eyes flickering with both resolve and unease. The gala was Noah Caldwell's idea, a fundraiser for youth arts programs, including Hope Haven, meant to show the world what Zara stood for. But after the Hollywood fiasco with tabloids screaming lies about her and Julian Pierce, Zara wasn't sure she could face another room of judgmental eyes. The staged photo of her with Julian had gone viral, painting her as a schemer, and the racist comments that followed. "She's just a black girl chasing a rich man," cut deeper than she'd admit. Noah had called her, his voice steady over the phone. "I don't believe the lies. Zara, come to Austin. Let's do this together." Against her better judgment, she'd agreed, drawn by the memory of his hand in hers, his pride in her at the Dolby Theater. Inside the warehouse, the gala was a blend of Austin's eclectic charm and high society polish. Exposed brick walls were draped with fairy lights. Long tables groaned under plates of brisket and cornbread, and a blues band played a soulful cover of Etta James's At Last. Noah stood near the stage, his black suit sharp against the warm glow, his green eyes scanning the crowd until they found Zara. Her golden dress made her stand out like a beacon, and his breath caught a rare crack in his composed exterior. He'd spent days wrestling with doubt after the Julian photo, But seeing her now, her strength and grace undeniable, he knew he'd been a fool to question her. Zara felt his gaze, her pulse quickening. But before she could approach Julian, Pierce slipped through the crowd, his tailored blazer and sly grin as calculated as ever. "Zara, you clean up nice," he said, his voice smooth as whiskey. "Shame about that photo. People get the wrong idea so easily, don't they?" His eyes glinted with mockery, and Zara's jaw tightened. "Stay away from me, Julian," she said, her voice low and firm. "I'm not playing your games." He leaned closer, undeterred. "Oh, but you're already in the game, darling. Noah's falling hard, and when you break his heart, Caldwell, innovations will crumble. Think about it, a little cooperation could make you rich." Zara stepped back, her dark eyes blazing. "I'd rather lose everything than sell my soul." She turned away, but Julian's laugh lingered, a warning of trouble to come. The gala continued, the crowd mingling under the fairy lights, but tension simmered beneath the surface. Sophie Caldwell, Noah's younger sister, hovered near the bar, her designer dress sparkling as she whispered to Evelyn Harper. Sophie's leaked photo had sparked the Hope Haven scandal, and though she hadn't meant to hurt Noah, her jealousy of Zara's influence over him had driven her to reckless choices. Now, with their mother, Victoria Caldwell, in attendance, Sophie felt the pressure to prove her loyalty to the family's legacy. Victoria, a silver-haired matriarch with a commanding presence, approached Noah as he adjusted his cufflinks near the stage. "This is a mistake, Noah," she said, her voice icy. "That girl is a liability. The tabloids, the photo with Pierce, she's dragging our name through the mud. End it tonight or you'll regret it." Noah's green eyes hardened. "Her name is Zara, Mother, and I'm not ending anything. She's worth more than your approval." Victoria's lips thinned, but before she could reply, the MC called for attention and Noah took the stage, his presence silencing the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady and resonant, "tonight is about giving back, supporting kids who deserve a chance to shine. But it's also about someone who's changed how I see the world." Zara froze, her heart pounding as Noah's eyes found hers. He extended a hand, his voice softening. "Zara Brooks, will you join me?" The crowd murmured, heads turning, and Zara hesitated, the weight of their stares pressing down. But Noah's gaze, warm and unwavering, gave her courage. She climbed the stage, her golden dress catching the light, and stood beside him, her hand in his, the warmth of his touch grounding her. Climax 3. Noah faced the crowd, his voice rising with conviction. "Zara Brooks is the heart of this night. She's dedicated her life to kids like those at Hope Haven, to communities that need her most, and she's the woman I love." A collective gasp rippled through the room, glasses clinking as hands froze. Victoria's face paled. Sophie's jaw dropped, and Evelyn whispered furiously to Julian. Noah turned to Zara, his green eyes burning. "I love you, Zara. No matter what the world says, no matter what my family thinks. You're my truth, and I'm standing with you." Zara's breath caught her dark eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The room seemed to vanish, leaving only Noah, his words, his touch, his unshakable belief in her. "Noah," she whispered, her voice trembling, "you don't have to do this." "I do," he said, squeezing her hand, "because you're worth it." The crowd erupted in a mix of applause and murmurs, cameras flashing like a storm. But Victoria stepped forward, her voice cutting through the noise. "This is a disgrace, Noah. You're throwing away our legacy for a woman who's nothing but trouble." Sophie hesitated, her eyes flickering with guilt, but stayed silent. Zara's heart sank, the weight of Victoria's words echoing the tabloid's cruelty. She pulled her hand from Noah's, her voice steady despite the pain. "I won't let you lose your family. Noah, this, us, it's too much." She turned to leave, but Noah caught her wrist, his touch firm yet gentle. "Don't walk away. Zara, we're in this together." His voice was a plea, and for a moment she wavered, caught in the fire of his gaze. They slipped away from the stage, escaping to a quiet rooftop overlooking South Congress, where the neon lights painted the sky in pinks and blues, and the distant strum of a guitar wove through the air. The scent of smoked brisket and wildflowers drifted up from the street, and Zara leaned against the railing, her golden dress glowing under the starlight, her heart a tangled mess of love and fear. "I meant every word," Noah said, standing close, his voice low. "I love you, Zara. I don't care about the headlines or my mother, but I need to know. Do you feel this too?" She looked at him, his green eyes raw and open, and her walls cracked. "I do," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm scared, Noah. Your world, these lies, they're tearing me apart." "Then let me fight for you," he said, stepping closer. "Let us fight." Sensual scene. The guitar's twang softened, blending with the hum of Austin's nightlife, and Noah moved closer, his cedarwood cologne wrapping around Zara like a warm embrace. The neon lights cast a kaleidoscope of colors across her skin, highlighting the curve of her neck, and his hand brushed her cheek, slow and deliberate, sending a shiver through her. "You're everything," he murmured, his voice a deep rumble like the bass line of the blues below. His fingers traced the line of her jaw, warm and electrifying, and Zara's breath hitched as he leaned in, his lips hovering inches from hers, the heat of his breath mingling with the wildflower-scented air. The music swelled a soulful chord, matching the thud of her heartbeat, and she felt herself sway toward him, her hands grazing his chest, the fabric of his suit soft under her fingers. His touch slid to her waist, pulling her closer, and the world narrowed to the glow of his eyes, the pulse of the city, the fire sparking between them. But a fire truck's siren wailed below, shattering the moment, and Zara pulled back. Her cheeks flushed her body, humming with unspent desire. I need time," she said, her voice shaky but resolute. Noah nodded, his eyes still burning. "I'll wait, Zara, as long as it takes." She left the rooftop, her heart a storm, but the world was closing in faster, back in her hotel. Zara's phone buzzed with a new headline from Vance Corporation: "Noah Caldwell embezzles charity funds. Zara Brooks, named accomplice." The accusations were lies backed by forged documents, but they hit like a tidal wave. Lila Hayes, filming in Austin, sent Zara a cryptic text. "Found something on Pierce. Meet me tomorrow." Meanwhile, Sophie, racked with guilt over her role in the leaks, overheard Julian bragging about Vance's plan to destroy Noah. She hesitated, torn between family loyalty and the truth. Across town, Noah stood in his hotel suite, staring at the headline, his jaw tight. He didn't believe Zara was involved, but the forged evidence was damning, and his board was calling for his resignation. Victoria's voice echoed in his mind. "She's a liability," but he pushed it aside, thinking of Zara's speech in Hollywood, her hand in his. He dialed his assistant Dig into Vance Corporation. "I want everything in her hotel room." Zara sat on the bed, her silver bracelet glinting under the lamplight. She thought of Noah's declaration, his touch, the way he'd stood against his family for her. But the accusations, the lies, the weight of his world. It was too much. Could she keep fighting? Or would their love crumble under the pressure? As the blues band's melody floated through her window, a new resolve stirred. She wouldn't let Vance win, not without a fight. The Beverly Hills Hotel glowed like a golden oasis against the Los Angeles night, its pink and green facade bathed in soft light, palm trees swaying gently in the breeze. Inside, the grand ballroom buzzed with anticipation, its chandeliers casting a warm shimmer across marble floors and white-clothed tables laden with orchids and crystal glassware. The air smelled of jasmine and champagne, but beneath the elegance, tension crackled like static. This was no ordinary press conference. It was Noah Caldwell's gambit to clear his name, and Zara Brooks from the vicious lies spun by Vance Corporation. The room brimmed with reporters, their cameras poised like hawks, and elite guests whispering behind manicured hands, eager for a spectacle. Zara stood backstage, her heart pounding as she adjusted the lapels of her tailored black suit, its sleek lines accentuating her deep brown skin and the fierce determination in her dark eyes. Her curly hair was swept into a high bun, a single silver hairpin glinting alongside her mother's bracelet. The keepsake from Noah Brooks that anchored her through the storm. The past weeks had been a crucible. Tabloid, lies, racist attacks, and Vance Corporation's forged documents accusing her and Noah of embezzling charity funds. The headline, Zara Brooks accomplice, or con artist, still burned in her mind. But tonight, she was done hiding. With Lila Hayes' help, she'd gathered irrefutable evidence against Vance, and with Noah's trust, she was ready to fight. Noah stood nearby, his black suit sharp and his green eyes steady, though exhaustion shadowed his face. The accusations had taken a toll. His board was demanding his resignation, and his mother, Victoria Caldwell, had doubled down, calling Zara a disaster in a heated call that morning. But Noah's faith in Zara hadn't wavered, not since her speech in Hollywood, not since his declaration in Austin. He caught her eye now, offering a small, reassuring nod. "We've got this," he said, his voice low and firm. "You're not alone." Zara's lips curved, a flicker of warmth cutting through her nerves. "I know," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "Let's end this." Outside, Limerick Park's vibrant pulse seemed a world away, but its spirit music resilience community lived in Zara as she prepared to step into the spotlight. Lila Hayes, her best friend and a documentary filmmaker, stood nearby, her locks tied back, her brown eyes gleaming with pride. "You're about to light this place up, Zara," Lila said, handing her a flash drive. "Everything's on here. Emails, recordings, the works. Vance won't know what hit him." Sophie Caldwell, Noah's sister, hovered awkwardly at the edge of the group, her designer heels clicking nervously. Her guilt over leaking the Hope Haven photo and fueling the tabloid storm had pushed her to make amends. I'm sorry, Zara," she said, her voice barely audible. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." I told Lila about Julian's calls to Vance. I want to help. Zara studied her, then nodded. "We're good, Sophie. Just stand with us now." Sophie's shoulders relaxed, a spark of resolve in her blue eyes. The MC's voice boomed, calling the press conference to order, and Noah took the stage first, his presence commanding silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice resonant. "We're here to address the lies against Caldwell Innovations and Zara Brooks. I've never misused charity funds, and Zara is no accomplice. She's the most honest person I know, and tonight you'll see the truth." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, cameras flashing. But Noah's eyes found Zara, signaling her moment. I took a deep breath, her silver bracelet glinting as she stepped into the spotlight, her black suit a stark contrast to the room's opulence. The reporters leaned forward, sensing a story, and Julian Pierce, lurking near the back with a smug grin, watched with predatory interest. Climax 4. Zara's voice rang out clear and unyielding. "My name is Zara Brooks, and I'm not who you think I am." The room stilled, every eye on her. "I'm the chairwoman of the Brooks Legacy Foundation, a multi-billion-dollar philanthropy built by my adoptive mother, Noah Brooks." A collective gasp erupted, glasses clinking as hands froze. Victoria's face paled. Sophie's jaw dropped and Julian's grin vanished. Zara held up the flash drive, her dark eyes blazing. Vance Corporation fabricated the accusations against Noah Caldwell and me. They forged documents, manipulated the media, and tried to destroy us for their own gain, but they underestimated us. She plugged the drive into a laptop, projecting emails, financial records, and a recorded call, where Julian bragged about framing Noah. The evidence was damning. Vance's CEO had orchestrated the scheme to weaken Caldwell Innovations and seize market share. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers, reporters scrambling to capture every word. Then a figure emerged from the wings. Elena Morrow, a former Vance employee, her face pale but resolute. "I worked for Vance." "Elena," said her voice steady, "I saw the lies firsthand. Naomi Brooks helped me when I was a kid in Roxbury, and I'm here to honor her legacy by telling the truth." The room exploded in applause, cameras flashing like a thunderstorm. Julian slipped toward the exit, but security blocked his path, his face twisting with rage. Zara turned to Noah, her eyes shimmering with relief and pride, and he stepped to her side, his hand brushing hers. A silent promise of solidarity. Turning point 2. Backstage in a quiet corridor overlooking the Hollywood Hills. Zara and Noah stood alone, the golden light from the city below, casting a warm glow across their faces. The distant hum of LA traffic mingled with the faint scent of eucalyptus, and Zara's black suit softened in the dimness, her silver bracelet catching the light. "I should have told you," she said, her voice trembling, "about the foundation, about who I am. I was scared you'd see me differently, like I was just another rich person playing a game." Noah's green eyes softened, and he lifted her chin gently, his thumb grazing her cheek. "Zara, I don't care about your money or your title. I love you for your heart, for the way you fight for those kids, for the way you stood up tonight. You're not a game to me. You're everything." Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness, but from a deep, overwhelming trust. "I'm sorry I kept it from you," she whispered. "I love you too, Noah. I was just afraid of losing this." "You won't lose me," he said, his voice fierce. "Not now, not ever." Sensual scene. The corridor's golden light bathed Zara's skin, highlighting the curve of her neck, and Noah stepped closer, his cedarwood cologne mingling with the eucalyptus breeze, sharp and intoxicating. The distant wail of a saxophone from a Hollywood club pulsed through the air, matching the thud of Zara's heartbeat. His hand slid to her waist, warm and possessive, pulling her against him, and she gasped softly, her fingers grazing the lapels of his suit, the fabric cool under her touch. "You were unstoppable out there," he murmured, his voice a low growl like the rumble of a distant quake. His lips brushed her forehead, then trailed to her cheek, slow and searing, each touch igniting a spark that spread through her like wildfire. Her breath hitched as his hand moved to the small of her back, pressing her closer, the heat of his body a stark contrast to the cool night air. The saxophone's wail crescendoed, weaving with their shared breath, and Zara tilted her head, her lips inches from his, the pull between them electric undeniable. But a reporter's shout from the ballroom, "Ms. Brooks'" statement shattered the moment, and she pulled back. Her cheeks flushed, her body humming with unspent desire. "We should go back," she said, her voice shaky but smiling. Noah's eyes burned a promise in their depths. This isn't over. They returned to the ballroom where the press conference had turned into a frenzy. Headlines were already breaking. Zara Brooks, from mystery woman to billionaire philanthropist and Vance Corporation, exposed in shocking conspiracy. Public opinion swung sharply. Caldwell Innovations stock soaring as Vance faced a wave of backlash. Victoria watched from the sidelines, her expression unreadable, but Sophie approached Zara, her voice soft. "I was wrong about you. I'm proud to call you family." Zara nodded, a weight lifting. "Thanks, Sophie. Let's build something better together." Lila, grinning, pulled Zara into a hug. Told you you'd light it up, sis. Now, what's next? Zara glanced at Noah, his green eyes steady, and smiled. We keep fighting for Hope Haven, for us. But as they left the ballroom, a folded note slipped under Zara's hotel door later that night caught her eye. It was unsigned, with a single line. The Brooks legacy isn't as clean as you think. Her dark eyes narrowed, a chill running through her. She showed it to Noah, who pulled her close, his voice firm. Whatever this is, we'll face it together. In her hotel room, Zara sat by the window, the Hollywood Hills glittering below. She thought of Noah's love, her mother's legacy, and the kids at Hope Haven. Malik's poetry, their dreams. The note was a shadow, but with Noah by her side, she felt ready for whatever came next. As the city's lights pulsed like a heartbeat, a question lingered. What secrets did the Brooks legacy hold, and could their love withstand the truth? The air at Magnolia Plantation in Charleston carried the sweet perfume of blooming magnolias, their white petals glowing under the golden light of a late afternoon sun. Ancient oak trees draped in Spanish moss framed the gardens, their branches forming a canopy over winding paths and shimmering ponds. The plantation, with its historic charm and quiet beauty, felt like a world apart from the chaos of Los Angeles, where Zara Brooks and Noah Caldwell had exposed Vance Corporation's lies just weeks ago. Tonight, they were here for a different reason. A small, heartfelt celebration at Hope Haven, the Roxbury orphanage Zara loved. But first, Noah had brought her to this southern sanctuary, a place that felt like a promise of peace. Zara stood in the garden, her white silk dress flowing like a soft wave, its simple lines hugging her deep brown skin. Her curly hair was loose, adorned with a handmade crown of magnolia petals, crafted by the Hope Haven kids, and her dark eyes sparkled with a quiet joy. Her silver bracelet, Naomi Brooks's keepsake, glinted on her wrist, a reminder of the legacy she carried. The press conference had changed everything. Headlines now sang her praises. Zara Brooks, philanthropist, hero. Saves Caldwell Innovations, and Vance Corporation, was reeling from lawsuits and public outrage. But the mysterious note she'd found in L.A. hinting at secrets in the Brooks Legacy Foundation lingered in her mind, a shadow she hadn't yet faced. Noah stood a few feet away, his white shirt rolled up to the elbows, dark trousers, casual yet elegant. His green eyes followed Zara, a warmth in them that hadn't been there months ago before the auctions, the scandals, the battles the kids at Hope Haven had softened him. Zara's courage had inspired him, and their love tested by fire had made him whole. Tonight he carried a small velvet box in his pocket, its weight both thrilling and grounding. He'd planned this moment for weeks, knowing it had to be here in a place as timeless as their bond. The celebration at Hope Haven earlier that day had been pure magic. The Roxbury orphanage's playground was strung with golden fairy lights, wooden tables laden with cornbread, collard greens, and sweet tea. The air filled with the laughter of kids like Malik Young, who recited a poem he'd written for Zara. Miss Zara, you're our sun shining bright, making us strong. Zara had hugged him, tears in her eyes, and Noah had watched his heart swelling. Lila Hayes, Zara's best friend, had filmed the event for her documentary, her locks bouncing as she teased Zara. You're making me cry, and I don't do tears. Even Sophie Caldwell. Noah's sister had joined her guilt over past betrayals, replaced by a tentative bond with Zara forged through their shared fight against Vance. But now at Magnolia Plantation, it was just Zara and Noah, the world quiet, except for the chirp of crickets and the soft ripple of a nearby pond. Zara wandered down a path, her white dress catching the fading light, and Noah followed his steps, deliberate. This place is beautiful, she said, turning to him, her voice soft. Thank you for bringing me here. It's not just the place. Noah said, his voice low. a smile tugging at his lips. "It's you. You make everything beautiful, Zara." Her cheeks warmed and she looked away, her fingers tracing the bracelet. "You're gonna make me blush, Noah." "Good," he said, stepping closer, his green eyes gleaming. "I like seeing you blush." Their laughter mingled with the evening air, but a deeper current ran between them. The note from LA had shaken Zara, and though she hadn't shared its full weight with Noah, he sensed her unease. "You've been quiet," he said, his voice gentle. "What's on your mind?" She hesitated, then met his gaze. "That note. It said the Brooks legacy isn't clean. I don't know what it means, but it scares me. Naomi built something good, something pure. What if there's truth to it?" Noah's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed steady. "Whatever it is, we'll face it. You're not alone anymore, Zara. You've got me. Lila Sophie. Even Malik's ready to fight with his poems." He grinned and she laughed, the tension easing. "You're right," she said, her dark eyes softening. "I'm not used to leaning on anyone, but with you, I want to try." Sensual Scene 1. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of peach and lavender, and Noah took Zara's hand, leading her to a secluded corner of the garden where magnolia petals littered the grass like fallen stars. The air was thick with their sweet scent, mingling with Noah's cedarwood cologne, a heady mix that made Zara's pulse quicken. His fingers laced through hers, warm and steady, and he pulled her close, his other hand brushing her cheek, the touch slow and deliberate, sending a shiver through her. "You're my home, Zara," he murmured, his voice a deep rumble, like the low hum of a Charleston tide. The golden light caught her skin, highlighting the curve of her neck, and his lips grazed her forehead, then trailed to her temple, each kiss a soft spark, igniting her senses. Her breath hitched, her hands sliding to his chest, the cotton of his shirt soft under her fingers, and she felt the steady thud of his heart matching hers. The cricket's song wove with their shared breath, and for a moment the world was just them, the petal-strewn grass, the fading light, the electric pull of their nearness. But a bird's sudden call broke the spell, and Zara stepped back. Her cheeks flushed, her dark eyes shining with unspoken longing. "Noah," she started, but he smiled, his hand still holding hers. "Not yet," he said, his voice teasing. "I've got something to say first." He led her to a clearing where a single oak stood, its branches heavy with moss, and dropped to one knee, pulling the velvet box from his pocket. Zara's breath caught her hand, flying to her mouth as he opened it, revealing a silver ring with a deep brown topaz, the exact shade of her eyes. "Zara Brooks." He began, his voice thick with emotion. "You've taught me that love isn't about power or wealth, it's about trust, courage, and standing together through every storm. I can't promise you the world, but I promise you my heart, my loyalty, my forever. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Zara's face, not from sorrow, but from a joy so deep it felt like flying. The kids' laughter from Hope Haven echoed in her mind, their faith in her and Noah's love unwavering, fierce, filled every corner of her heart. "Yes, Noah," she whispered, laughing through her tears. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, rising to pull her into a tight embrace, and the garden seemed to bloom brighter. The magnolias, a silent witness to their vow. Sensual Scene 2. Noah cupped her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks, and kissed her slow and deep, his lips warm and sure against hers. The scent of magnolias enveloped them, sweet and intoxicating, and the soft glow of twilight bathed Zara's skin, making her look like a vision carved from light. His hands slid to her waist, pulling her closer, the silk of her dress whispering under his touch, and she melted into him, her fingers tangling in his hair, the warmth of his scalp grounding her. The kiss deepened a quiet fire building, and her breath came in soft gasps, the world narrowing to the press of his body, the hum of his low moan, the pulse of their shared desire. The oak's branches rustled above a gentle breeze, carrying their moment. And when they finally parted, Zara's dark eyes were alight, her lips curved in a shy smile. "Your trouble." "Noah Caldwell," she teased, her voice husky. "Only for you," he replied, his grin boyish yet burning. They returned to Hope Haven that evening, where the celebration continued under the fairy lights. Malik ran up, hugging Zara, his poem now framed on the orphanage wall. "You're getting married, Miss Zara. Does that mean Mr. Noah's staying forever?" he asked, eyes wide. "Forever and a day," Noah said, ruffling his hair, and Malik whooped, leading a chant of Zara and Noah as the kids danced around them. Lila pulled Zara aside, her grin wide. "You did it, sis. You showed the world who you are, and you got a good man to boot. But that note—" "You think it's trouble?" Zara glanced at the ring on her finger, then at Noah laughing with the kids. "Maybe," she said. "But we'll handle it. Together." Victoria Caldwell approached, her silver hair gleaming, her expression softer than Zara had ever seen. "I was wrong about you," she said, her voice low. "You've made Noah better, Zara, and I'd be honored to call you family." Zara nodded, a lump in her throat. "Thank you, Victoria." "Let's start fresh." Elena Morrow, the former Vance employee, joined them, her eyes bright. "I'm starting a scholarship in Naomi's name," she said. "Her legacy lives in you, Zara, and I want to carry it forward." As the night wound down, Zara and Noah stood hand in hand, the fairy lights twinkling above the kids' laughter, a melody of hope. But back in her Roxbury apartment days later, Zara found another note slipped under her door. "Ask about Naomi's partners. The truth is closer than you think." Her dark eyes narrowed, a chill running through her, but Noah's arm around her was a reminder of their strength. Whatever secrets lay ahead, they'd face them as one. The Charleston stars glittered above Magnolia Plantation, a silent promise of love, unbroken of battles won and yet to come. Zara and Noah's story wasn't just a romance. It was a testament to resilience, trust, and the power of standing tall. As the magnolias bloomed, their love became a legend, proof that when hearts are true, no storm is too great. Has Zara and Noah's love story stolen your heart? Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your favorite moment, and join us to see what secrets await them next. Their journey's far from over.